Hi, I'm Akhtar. I've been working on my resume. Now I have to try to get it all on one page to get a complete general resume. So Amanda, I've heard you should tailor your resume for every job you apply to. So why do I need a general resume for?
Because your general resume is kind of your foundation document that you can work from, that's has really strong bullet points, it's well formatted, it's the best representation of your skills and abilities, your experiences. So that's the best document to work from is your general resume. You can also use that resume too, like if you're going to a networking event or a career fair, and that's the resume you can also post on Handshake or LinkedIn. So that's how you also might use your general resume.
Okay, but how can I have a resume to just be one page?
So it's important again to think of this from the employer's perspective. So knowing that an employer has very little time to look at resumes and try to glean from them kind of what your experience is, and if you're a match, you can imagine the difference between reading one page or reading multiple pages, right? So it's really important to have that one-page resume. In some industries, you might go into 2 pages. Also, if you have a significant amount of experience, you might have a little longer resume. But for most individuals, having a succinct one-page resume helps you pick the most relevant and most recent experience to feature. You want to grab the employer's attention and have them not have to read more than one page. Make it easy for them.
Oh, just make it easy for them, okay. But you know, also it looks like all resume follow a basic structure. Is how you put together a resume the same for everybody?
Yeah, so resumes do follow a basic structure. You know, you can look at a resume and know it's a resume. And this is helpful for the employer too. So they're comparing candidates and they can see work experience compared to work experience or education compared to education. So it is helpful to have it follow a format in that sense. Also, another format that we reference in our offices and that most people utilize is the reverse chronological order. So we talked about that before, working with what you're doing currently and going backward in time. That also helps you focus on your most recent, most relevant experience. Categories in resumes, you can see them kind of very similarly across different resumes. So you'll include things like education, work experience, community service. You might have skills and certifications. If it's appropriate for your industry, publications, presentations, research. Those are some of the categories that you would see on a resume that can help you format your resume and make sure that you kind of hit your most important experience that you want to include.
How do I make my resume stand out if they all look the same?
So how you decide what you want to feature within your resume, that's how you can stand out. So how you decide to kind of organize those categories, we brought up, using certain categories, but based on what you want to stand out, you can start to make it look different. So for example, if you're a junior and you don't have a lot of work experience, you might decide to feature your education, your relevant coursework, projects that you're doing. Whereas if you're a student that has a few years of professional work experience, you might decide to put your work experience first. Or if you're in a certain field, like your computer science, or you're going into engineering, those are fields where technical skills are going to be very important. So you might decide to have your skills and your technical proficiencies first. So how you organize that content can help you stand out based on your field. And another way that you stand out is by having really exceptional content. So a resume that's really well written, that's very succinct in how you've designed your bullet points, those sorts of things are what's going to help you stand out.
Okay, I think I have a lot of good information on my resume so far. How do I decide what to edit to put on that one-page resume?
So your resume should feature some of your most relevant skills. You want to focus on, we talked before about transferable skills, and you want to include that. Make sure those are included in your resume. Also, make sure that your resume features your accomplishments. So as you're selecting and narrowing down, editing, pick those bullet points. You know, if you have 4 or 5 bullet points, pick the ones that really truly show your accomplishments, because those are going to speak to your contributions. So select those. Make sure to pick, kind of similarly, your experiences that show your best examples of the work that you've done. Have some variety. So if you're involved in a club, or you're involved in a few different clubs or memberships, pick the one where maybe you're an officer versus you're just a member. So be selective in that way, and really try to show the breadth and depth of your experience. So if you have, let's say that you're a server in a number of different restaurants, and that's been a role that you've had, pick the one maybe that where you did your best work, or where you can speak to your skills more effectively, or where you have longevity. Employers do like to see longevity, and that kind of shows your depth of experience too. So those are some of the criteria that you want to use as you're narrowing down, editing, trying to get it down to one page.
Okay.
Okay.
I see where we're going.
Okay.
That helps. Now it helps know what to include and how to be selective, which leads to my next question for you now.
Okay.
Is how I finish my resume, and how do I know if I finish my resume and that I'm done with it?
Yeah. So at this point, once you've really narrowed down your resume and all your bullet points are written in the APR, you have your kind of most relevant experience featured, now you can start to format. So the formatting piece is really helpful to use a checklist to kind of go through a lot of these steps. And we have that checklist in our Wildcat Career Guide, which you can find online. It's also in print. So it helps to kind of follow the formatting guide for, when you're doing this piece, because you want to pay attention to your margins, to the fonts that you use, so your font size. A typical font size for a resume for most of your text might be 11. But I really suggest when you're working on the formatting that you use the checklist in our career guide, you use our materials that you can find online, because that will help you complete the formatting and make sure that you are hitting all of those points. Some common resume mistakes I should bring up, because I see these all the time. So inconsistent alignment of dates. That can be a common mistake. If a resume is too crowded, it's really hard to read. So somebody maybe didn't do that editing and paring down of being selective of what to include. That happens, and that can make your resume really crowded. So there's not enough white space. You kind of want to have some space to read between the lines. Also, lines that only have 1 to 2 words on them. So sometimes you might write a bullet point and it goes on to a second line with 1 word. That's actually called a widow, and it's a typography thing, and it's visually unappealing, and it takes a whole line that you're not using for anything except 1 word. So go back and see if you can kind of edit that bullet point again to be really succinct. Inconsistent punctuation on a resume. Go through really with a fine-tooth comb and kind of, as you go through your resume, edit again, and then the most important thing is having somebody else to edit and review it with you. And that's probably when when you feel you're done, is when you're like, okay, I've seen this enough, I need somebody else, somebody in your network, somebody from our offices of student engagement, career development, to help look over your resume and go through the next review process. Let's look at your final resume that you've created.
Looks so good.
It looks amazing. So, we noticed that you called out your name is in bold. So your name is like the first thing that I see. The categories that you've selected, you've decided because of your interest that you're going into, public relations, you're featuring your skills and your strengths first. Your education, your experience, all of those are formatted the same, your dates are aligned, and as I go through your bullet points, I can see that you've really used the APR approach to have variety in the actions that you took, different projects that you worked on, skills are represented in each of your bullet points, and that many of them have results. Your resume is a really strong resume. Nice job.
Thank you.
If you have questions or need help, visit us in LifeLab or find more information on our website.